Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to hear a very interesting story titled, Am I the A-hole for letting my dad live the way he wants? And guys, this story, I got to tell you, this was sent over to me by a subscriber. This isn't his story, this is a Reddit story he found. And by the way, you know who you are. I forgot to write your name down, but thank you for setting this. You know who you are. And this story is a little hard to classify, but I thought it was so interesting and unique, I'm covering it here. And essentially, this is about a guy, he's talking about his dad. This guy's 40 years old, married, kids and all that. And his dad, who's 62, recently was divorced because his mom, his mother and his father's wife was cheating on him with a younger man. She was having an affair, divorced him, and this guy was really hit hard. He was hit hard, obviously, emotionally, and not to mention financially. And he's essentially kind of given up on society and people, and he's living off the grid. The guy you're going to see in the story here, on the guy who's narrating this land, he built a small house, like a cabin, out in the woods, and is living there by himself. He has, electric, and he has the basic necessities and all that. He gets his water by a hose from the well, so he doesn't have plumbing, but he can still go to the son's house and use the shower if he wants to, and laundry and all that. And he's enjoying his life, okay? He's essentially done with people, done with society and all that, because he's been really hurt. And like a lot of you guys watching this, I know a lot of guys feel this way. You're done and you just kind of want to go off and do your own thing and be left in peace, okay? And no one can blame you. Believe me, I don't. Well, you're going to see the story here. This father is being bothered by the members of the family, particularly this dude's sister and his aunt, the women in the family. They don't like how this guy's living. He's not bothering anybody. He's completely fine on his own. He still has the son there to go look after him, if he needs something. He's 62. He's not going mental with dementia or anything like that. And they're really giving him a hard time, making a lot of trouble for him. And they can't let this guy be. And I thought it'd be a good one to cover just to show you how society doesn't like it when people leave the herd. They don't like it when people go off on their own and do their own thing. They want you to stay part and be a part of the machine and being productive and all that. And also you're going to see, guys, because this has a important twist here, the sister and the aunt, they have ulterior motives as to why they're trying to get this father back as a part of society. No surprise there. And so I'm not going to reveal what that is or any of the details. You can find out. But this is a pretty interesting story here. And also, it's kind of cool, I must admit, being able to, when you're done with society, going off out in the country, being left alone. This guy's a minimalist, but he's happy doing his thing. And I got to admit, it's a little appealing. And I think some of you guys will like it. Anyhow, it says here, I, a 40-year-old male, have a father, a 62-year-old male, that likes to live a very simple and secluded life. After my mom had an affair and divorced him to run away with a younger man, he's been very closed off. When we were a year into the pandemic, he asked me if he could build a sub-building on the back of my property and live in it. I bought the property my grandparents owned, and there are 6 acres with some trees. You can't even see where my dad built his little cabin. It's really just a modified Home Depot shed that he's made into his own little house. Cool. 6 acres, woods. Okay, it's enough for him to have some peace and quiet. He's got power via a line run from my house, but also keeps a generator for when he needs it. And his little building only has the basic necessities. And above all, it's quiet. He spends his spare time in there reading or watching DVDs when he's not out working. He drives trucks for a living, and my mom took a chunk of his retirement when they divorced. She's having an affair and divorces him, and she gets half his retirement. What kind of fucked up world are we in here that's okay and allowed? But we all know this is how it works. And people wonder why more dudes don't want to get married. And this guy's really been hit hard by this. In his solitude, he's recovering. He just wants peace and quiet. Because let's be honest, that's what guys want. Women like the drama and the noise, and we like quiet, most of us. And the older we get, guys want peace. We can be there with our dog, or if you're like me with your cats, you want the peace and quiet. That's all he wants. But watch this. So he decided to live a minimalist lifestyle in a quiet place. He has a wood stove he uses for heat, keeps food cold in a small refrigerator, cooks everything with either a microwave or propane, built his own composting toilet, and gets his water from a hose line that comes directly from our well. He's got a cell phone that works fine down there as well, so he's not completely off the grid. I leave him alone 90% of the time because it's the peace that he treasures now. Okay. And again, 6 acres, if there's an emergency, the sun can get to him like that. If there's like freaking major cold spell, a polar vortex, if you will, that's the new term now, and it's a big blizzard he needs to get in, he can come stay with the sun, he can do laundry, he can shower. I would try to get real plumbing in there instead of the hose coming in, but aside from that, okay. Now listen to this. Other members of the family, however, don't like the way he's living, and they're calling me an enabler. But he's happy the way he is living now. My sister and aunt are both pressuring me to get him back to civilization. He is a grown-ass man. It is none of their freaking business. And calling this dude an enabler, he's on the property. He can keep an eye on him. But you're going to see there's other things going on in the scene with this sister and aunt. But he's literally just deep in my backyard. My kids don't even bother him without permission. There's literally no drama between us. He comes over for dinner regularly and loves spending time with his grandkids. But when he's alone in that cabin, that's exactly how he wants it to stay, so we don't bother him there. He's happy. The son's happy. Leave the guy alone. But my sister, aunt, and a few others keep pressuring Dad to move in with one of them or get himself an apartment. They are all city people, and they refer to his way of life as unclean. I get that city people don't like the country, and I get that country people don't like the city, and that's their right, that's their business. But don't try to push your views, your will on other people, okay? The way I live, some people may not like, and the way other people live, I may not like, but I'm not going to go try to change them, and don't try to change me. But he keeps himself and his home very clean, does his laundry regularly. My relatives can't seem to come up with a valid excuse as to why they want him out of his cabin. Well, there are other reasons, but they won't let it go either. I refuse to be in the middle over this, and they are saying what I'm doing is slowly hurting him. But he seems healthier than ever, so I don't believe them for a second. But the pressure is getting to me because they keep saying that I'm just waiting for him to die alone in there. Am I the a-hole? No. You're a great son. If there was a major problem, the son would intervene. But again, this is a perfect example how people have a hard time, people living in a way that the masses don't. Okay? He's been really hurt. He probably thought that he had a great wife and all that, and boom, she's cheating on him and leaves him for a younger man, wipes him clean of half his retirement and the assets. He's done. He wants to be away, peace and quiet. And I'm sure there are many guys watching this that are either doing that or thinking about doing that. And he's fine. I would maybe change the plumbing situation, but then again, he can go right to the house and take a shower or do his laundry or some damn thing. And if there's ever an emergency, family's right there. But wait till you see what's going on. Now as an update, he says, a lot has happened in just the last few hours. I've shown this post to my dad and also to my aunt and sister. Let's just say things didn't go well. Well, big surprise there. A lot of stuff came out that I didn't expect to hear. To start off with, reading your comments finally gave my dad the motivation to put his foot down against my sister and my aunt. Good for him. And I'm willing to bet you that if he hadn't been worn down by the divorce and the embarrassment of that, he'd probably be much easier putting his foot down against them. But, when somebody is depressed or worn down, it's hard to fight back. And the fact that literally no one saw things from my aunt and sister's point of view in the comments hit them hard when they looked through the post. They finally admitted to believing that I'm keeping Dad from them. They still stood by the fact that they hate country life and wanted my dad to come back to the city. It's none of their freaking business that they hate country life. He refused. There was a huge argument in which my dad said that he wouldn't stand for all the underhanded crap that my aunt and sister had been doing, like calling in wellness checks with the local police on him. Doesn't surprise me. It's none of their freaking business. In the argument between my dad and I against my sister and aunt, it came out that my sister's husband had filed for divorce some time ago because my sister had, wait for it, cheated. A lot. What's more, my aunt was aware of it and hid it from everyone. My sister is basically losing everything as my brother-in-law has been gathering evidence for years and has filed for majority custody in the divorce. So his marriage was destroyed because his wife was cheating, the father here, and he finds out that his daughter destroyed her marriage because she was cheating. Except the husband was smart enough to gather all this evidence, and and you're going to see, making things difficult for her. Talk about being stabbed twice in the heart, right? I've spoken to him to get the full details, and what he has on my sister is very bad. This is his sister's soon-to-be ex-husband. He's hired a private investigator and found out way more than he's expected he would. He's shown me some of the evidence he has and who my sister has cheated with. And I'm not going to go into further detail about it here, but let's just say that it'd be damning in court. Enough so that if he uses it, what he knows, it'll end my sister's career in a heartbeat. Sounds fair to me. So she basically has no choice but to agree to his terms. My sister felt backed into a corner and doubled down in trying to get my dad to move closer to her so he could basically be her counterweight. Translation, I'm going to try to use my dad to help make the divorce easier for me, and not to mention probably mooch off him, since I'm going to lose probably a lot of things in this divorce because the evidence is damning against me. Ulterior motive. She doesn't give a crap about her dad. She just wants to get resources out of him. And finding this all hit my dad very hard. He never thought my sister could do something like that. Well, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. The bitchy mother's tree. Or that his own sister would cover up. He said that for the time being, neither of them are welcome in his life, and he's retracted back to his cabin with a bottle of honey whiskey and a clear do not disturb order. As if he wasn't bummed enough about his family, the world, all that, now it's even worse. Can you blame this guy? Considering what my mother had done, the fact that my sister is just like her has really done my dad no favors. He was a pretty bad way after the divorce, and it took him months to recover. Now he's there all over again. Yeah, and it's going to be even worse this time. This started out just as a post to ask if I was in the wrong, but it's caused things to explode far beyond that. They exploded because the self-centered drama queen family members, the female family members, have made it that way. My sister and aunt are no longer allowed around me or the family, possibly indefinitely. You reach a point, guys, when you get to your middle age, when you realize, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate BS in my life, even if that means family. Not after what we found out. They actually tried to defend their reasoning to me, but I told them there was no defense at all for what they've done, and they'd be lucky if their lives aren't ruined further. I also add this detail in advance in case of any more questions about my aunt and her keeping my sister's what she did secret. Her own marriage ended 15 years ago because of, wait for it, infidelity. And my dad barely forgave her. Her own kids are about a decade younger than me, and they hardly speak to her. And I imagine they may cut her off completely if they find out what she did. So, this dude telling the story, his mother's a cheater and ruined that marriage. His sister's a cheater, ruined that marriage. His aunt, I'm guessing the sister of the father they're talking about, she's a cheater, ruined her marriage. If I'm this guy telling the story, I'm going to start definitely taking a look at my own situation because this dude's married. I'm hoping like hell he didn't marry someone like the gals in his family, but 3 of them. Good Lord. Can you blame this guy for wanting to be off the grid, be left the hell alone? You know? I'm telling you guys, I mean, I'm going to be 45 soon. I'm moving to Florida next year, and yeah, it's a very busy area, but I got to tell you, when I spent a big chunk of my life living out in the country, rural Pennsylvania, from 9 years old to like 25, and I hated it. I really did, for a lot of good reasons, but my family had like almost 60 acres of woods and fields and a giant creek that was like a mini river, and it was quiet and stars at night and nobody was around, and maybe 3 cars went down the street during the entire day. This was like in the late 80s and 90s. And there would be deer going through my yard and foxes, and it was awesome. But I mean, from looking back, I think it was awesome, but I hated it back then. Now, holy shit, when I go back and visit the family, because a lot of family, they have houses on the property, I love it. It's like so amazing to see the stars at night. It's like being in the planetarium. I live north of Boston. You don't get anything close to that. So I think after Florida, I might get a second home someplace else out in the country I can spend part of the year at. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I'm rambling. My brother-in-law is still very welcome in the family, and we are making plans for him to bring my nibblings out for a visit. Of course, without my sister. This has all taken a very unexpected turn, but my wife is comforting me and telling me I've done everything right. So there you go, guys. A perfect example of ulterior motives, cheating, acorn doesn't fall far from the tree, people not liking when people do things outside what the herd is doing, all that. But I think it's sad what happened to this guy's father. I mean, it really is. But the fact that I can't blame the guy at all for going off the grid. And he's not that far off the grid. He's on the family with his son, but you get my point. And I think a lot of guys there can appreciate that and reach the point they want to do the same thing, you know. And I wish that guy all the best. Again, I said in the beginning, this story is a little different and not your usual type, but I thought it'd be kind of cool hearing how this dude is, I'm done, living on his own terms and all that. Now, real quick, a few comments here because they're always fun. One guy says, you will never be the a-hole. You will never drop the bomb. Maybe with that family, cut those bad women out, and your dad finds new people to share love with and heal those wounds. Another guy says, not the a-hole. Your dad should live the life he wants. As far as your sister goes, she made her bed and she can lay in it. She has laid in a lot of beds. Too bad she did it with other men other than her husband. Your aunt's opinion is worthless. Another guy says, not the a-hole. Really just want to express what a wonderful son you are. You're clearly on the same wavelength as your dad, and allowing him the space to live a life that is healing and his peace of mind is such an underrated quality. I bet your acceptance of him means the world. It does, and I'm sure that's the only thing keeping him going. It's amazing how healing being out in nature really is. I mean, it's remarkable. I used to go camping once a year over Columbus Day weekend with a buddy of mine and his friends, and just a 3-day weekend up in New Hampshire. You know, with the way the leaves looking the way they do. I mean, nothing competes with New England in the fall and autumn. And you guys that are in New England, you know what I mean about how it's just amazing it is. But it really is just peaceful, getting out in nature, getting away from all the shit, especially nowadays. Another guy says, I'm sorry, but screw your sister. Did you actually think your dad, who moved out there because of what your mother did, would even think of supporting her? I'm sorry, but I genuinely hope your brother-in-law does turn in the evidence after the divorce is finalized, because you have to be a special kind of self-centered bee to think that for a second your dad, who was destroyed by your mom, cheating on him, would be on her side. Duh. How can you even claim to be a loving and concerned child and still do this? And one more guy says, not the a-hole. If he has no medical conditions that would prevent him from living alone, and he has regular social interaction, there's no need for him to change the way he's living. You're close enough to help if he needs it. And if he has a way to contact you in an emergency, it's a perfect setup. So there you go, guys. Interesting story there. But yeah, aside from maybe adding some plumbing, maybe running some plumbing out there and making sure that there's no issues with zoning, because the sister and aunt can try to dig that up with the local, you know, in the city. Aside from that, I think he's pretty good, and the son keeps an eye on him. But I hope this guy really heals, and I hope he and the son develop a good bond, and the grandkids can be close to him, and this guy who's been through a lot of shit can have a peaceful years finally and recover. That's all men really want: peace and quiet, and be happy and relaxed. And let's be honest, the more we're around society, and especially people nowadays, the more it can just make us just want to lose it. Anyway, guys, thought it'd be an interesting one to cover here. This may not get a lot of views, but I had fun reading and I had fun talking about it, as you can see. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Guys, you come across a really good story or article you'd like me to share, by all means, email it to me. Just be sure to include the link. And also, if you have a personal story you'd like to share, because I love those and they're great for the channel, again, email it to me. Make it easy for me to read, write out well, and I'll definitely cover it if it's a good one. I get tons of these things, so I got to choose the best one nowadays. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.